So I write this book on how to steal business. It's called Ethical Theft. And some of the chapters deal with how to steal business. And I want to set a scenario for you and see how you respond here. So you're on an airplane and you're sitting next to someone, and all of a sudden a conversation comes up and you're talking about business, and all of a sudden you find out that you can provide goods and services to this individual. They eventually start doing business with you. Is this ethical or unethical? Okay, yell it out. Let me hear. All right, good. All right. Most of you said ethical. That's good. I'm going to tell you it's unethical. Why? Well, my claim is this person has been sitting there for quite some time, maybe, waiting for you to make a sales call on them, and you haven't done it. And if you did it sooner, you might have had the business sooner. So what is unethical about that? In my mind, a lot of us today in business aren't doing enough to liberate business from the competition. There are clients that are mediocre at best, happy with the kind of service and goods they're getting, and all it takes is a sales call. All it takes is for someone to have the initiative to go in and make the right presentation and earn that business. So you can understand the kind of whack on the side of the head I'm asking you to do. Even though it's perfectly ethical to sit next to someone on an airplane and ask them for their business, to me, we could have done that a year ago, and that's what's unethical about that whole scenario. Let's go to the next slide. Let's see how ethical or unethical we're going to be. So let's focus on the hotel business for just a bit. I know a lot of you on the phone are in the hotel business, so let's stay with that theme. And for those of you that are not, I ask you to make the leap here and try to make this work for your industry, obviously. So why would I, as a salesperson, want to go to the competition's meeting rooms at around 10 a.m. or 2 p.m.? The reason I'm going at that time is obviously that's when most meetings have a coffee break. And I may have used this example in a previous webinar, but because so many of you are new to this call today, I'm going to do it again real quick. So I would approach the nearest person to me, and I would ask them, excuse me, who's in charge of this meeting? And they would point out someone, and they would say, see the woman in the blue dress? And I'd say, yes. And I'd walk up to her, and she's in the middle of a conversation, so I'd wait till she's done. I would wait till she has a break, and I would say, excuse me, can I talk to you for just 1 second? Hi, my name is Don Farrell. I work for the competition across the street. I know this is not the time or the place to do this. However, I would like to make a call on you when this meeting is over, whatever day this week, and ask you what it would take to have this meeting at my hotel. Now, can you imagine the different kinds of reactions you would get? You'd get quite a few, but most of them are pretty darn positive, especially when they figure out that, yeah, you may be a little crazy, but you're that confident in your product and your service to be able to deliver. All right? Now, 2 out of 10 might say, man, I don't care for your tactics, but 80% success rate, batting 800, I would take those odds any day. And in my mind, what I'm trying to do here is to get you guys to have a mind shift as well. Is it more unethical to do this, calling on someone in a coffee break, or more unethical not to make a sales call and wait a year from now and run into someone by accident? And net bottom line here is this. If you can move a client from your competition, then they didn't deserve it. And neither do you if they steal it from you. Loyalty is where it's at, and if they don't have it, then they don't deserve the business, and neither do you for that matter. All right? Let's go to the next slide. I think we're going to do a little survey here coming up soon. So when does loyalty start? I'm going to give you a couple of options here, and you pick the selection you think is best. Does loyalty start when you start delivering the actual service, or does it start before you ever meet that potential client, or does it certainly start on the first sales call? So go ahead and answer what you think is the best answer to that question. When does loyalty start? It's kind of a trick question. I think there's 2 good answers. I think there's one not so good answer. I think there's a mediocre one, and I think there is a best answer. All right, so when you deliver the service, so I'm going to read your mind. You're saying, hey, Farrell, you can only prove loyalty when you walk your talk. And I'm going to disagree. I think we have to start loyalty before they actually step foot into your business, before we actually start serving them. We've got to be able to start driving the loyalty sooner than that. I know what you're saying. You really drive it home when you walk your talk, and I totally agree with that. But we've got to start before that point in gaining their trust. So what do we have for selection B? And what was selection B again? All right, so 30% of you said, look, something's got to happen long before we even sit on an airplane with someone, even before you make a sales call on somebody else's coffee break. You've got to have the right culture. You've got to have the right people hired, and you've got to be able to convey that to them, obviously, which is option C here pretty soon. But you've got to be able to do that. You've got to have that stuff working by the time you ever run into someone or even before you do. And I totally, totally get that, and I totally agree with it. And I think that is the best selection of three. All right. And the third selection, if what you're doing is you're conveying that loyalty on a sales call, and then you're running back to your business and you're saying, quick, 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 we have to develop a culture, it's too late. We have got to start establishing this kind of a culture that says, look, employees, we have got to deliver loyal kinds of service. We've got to deliver loyal kinds of connections, communication, relationships, long before I ever start calling these people. So let's start working on it now. That's my point. It ain't you against the world, because if it is, we're in deep doo-doo. You're in deep doo-doo. We have got to get a bunch of people in your companies, in your businesses, on the same page as you. So the very best time to start driving loyalty is right now, long before you meet someone. Certainly you've got to be able to convey that on the sales call. No two ways about it. But you've got to be able to talk from the heart. You're not going to be able to fake that. You're not going to be able to lie about it. You can't just develop it overnight or in the next 20 minutes. It's got to be real, and you got to work on it. And you never stop working on it. Let's face it, right? So let's go to the next page. So some of you maybe learned something. Some of you maybe disagree with me, but we'll get into it just a bit. All right, so what we're looking for is the right culture. We want everybody on the staff to understand the value of this client. How do you do that, man? That's easy said. It's harder done, right? It's also not rocket science, man. You know it, and I know it. I would make sure that everybody in my building, my business, knows to what extent I am willing to go to make a sales call on their behalf and bring someone back. And yes, it means I'm going to go to the competition, I'm going to sit outside their coffee break, and I'm going to make a call on people who think I'm half nuts. But they're going to know that I'm not nuts when they step foot in my building, when they hear my presentation, and they're going to know for a fact that, wow, this guy really, I had a suspicion, that's why I gave him a chance here, that this guy was legitimate. And now he's proving it to me. I would make sure every single person in my company and my business knew I was willing to go that far to bring business into our company, because that's how much faith I have in them to deliver. And that's what it takes. And I would let them know this is what it takes today in a recession, in a depression, whatever economy it is, I don't care. This is what it takes to convince someone to stop using another provider and use us. And it comes down to you guys. And everybody counts, you know that, but they have to understand it to what degree, all right? Having that kind of a speech that you rah-rah and everyone's going, yeah, I'm on the same page. But how do you take that kind of a speech and that kind of an intent and that kind of mission and now make that work tactically, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week? How do you do that kind of stuff? And that's what's going to separate you from the rest of the guys. And I think what you've got to do is you've got to start with the switchboard operator, and then you've got to work with your front desks. Again, I'm picking on hotels here, or B&Bs. And you've got to work with every single employee as to what that means. And what that means is we're listening for clues. We're hearing employees talk about challenges and problems. We're listening to opportunities that we can help them solve, be it personally and or professionally.